Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Krishna Rose Lau Vilnor. I'm here to report production system. So let's learn what are our learning objectives. First is that to identify production. Second, describe production system. Third is to determine characteristics of production system. Fourth will be recognize the classification of production system. Five is to determine productivity level using single and multi-factor productivity. And last is to identify the critical variables in enhancing productivity level. So before and identifying what is production system, let's now define production. So production is an organized activity of transforming raw materials into finished products. It is defined as a step by step conversion of one form of material into another form through chemical or mechanical process to create or enhance the utility of the product to the user. It is also a process by which goods and services are created. To make it simple, production is the creation of goods and services. Now, let us describe what is production system. So, this is the part of an organization which produces products of an organization. It is that activity whereby resources flowing within a defined system are combined and transformed in a controlled manner to add value in accordance with the policies communicated by management. It utilizes materials, funds, infrastructure, and labor to produce the required output in form of goods. Production system consists of three main components. These are input, conversion, and output. So, input component this include raw materials, machines, man hours, components or parts, drawing, instructions, and other paperworks. For conversion, it is the operation, the actual production process, and for the output, it, it is finished products, finished goods, and services. To learn more about input, these are any resources used to create goods and services. Then for the conversion, this is an activities related to the transformation of resources into goods or services. This may be either manual or mechanical or chemical. So with conversion, it includes supporting activities such as production planning and control, purchase of raw materials, receipt, storage, and issue of materials, inspection of parts and work in progress, testing of products, quality control, warehousing of finished products, to name a few. And then for the output, as simple as it is the end of the process. Now that we know the components of production system, let us determine the characteristics of production system. One is that production is an organized activity, so every production system has an objective. Second is that the system transforms the various inputs to useful outputs. Third will be it does not operate in isolation from the other organization system. And lastly, there exists a feedback about the activities, which is essential to control and improve system performance. Now that we know the characteristics of production system, let's move on to types and classifications of production system. So we have two types of production system, which is intermittent and continuous. So for intermittent, these are goods and services are produced to fulfill the orders of the customer rather than keeping them in stock for the future transaction. So with intermittent, there are two classification, which is job shop production and batch production. Then for continuous, continuous is the production is carried out in accordance with the sales forecast and stock possession. And for that, there is a classification of continuous, which is a mass production. So let us learn more about this classification per types. One is the job system production. So, job system production characterized by the manufacturing of one or few quantity of products designed and produced as per the specification of customers within prefixed time and cost. This comprises of general purpose machines arranged into different departments. So, what are the characteristics of just job system production? One is high variety of products and low volume. Second is use of general purpose machines and facilities. Next is highly skilled operators who can take up each job as a challenge because of uniqueness. Fourth will be large inventory of materials, tools, parts. Lastly, detailed planning is essential for sequencing the requirements of each product, capacities for each work century, and order priorities. What are the advantages? So these are the advantages of job system production. Because of general purpose machines and facilities, variety of products can be produced. Operators will become more skilled and competent as each job gives them learning opportunities. Full potential of operators can be utilized. Opportunity exists for creative methods and innovative ideas. The limitations for job system productions are higher costs due to frequent setup changes, higher level of inventory at all levels, and hence higher inventory costs. Production planning is complicated and larger space requirement. Now let us know more about batch production. Batch production, it is a form of manufacturing in which the job passes through the functional departments in lots or batches, and each lot may have a different routing. So the characteristics of batch production are when there is shorter production runs, when plants and machinery are flexible, when plant and machinery setup is used for the production of item in a batch, and change of setup is required for processing the next batch. When manufacturing lead time and costs are lower as compared to job order production. Advantage of batch productions are better utilization of plant and machinery, promotes functional specialization, cost per unit is lower as compared to job order production, lower investment in plant and machinery, flexibility to accommodate and process number of products, and job satisfaction exists for operators. And lastly, the limitation for batch production is that material handling is complex because of irregular and longer flows. Production planning control is complex. Work in progress inventory is higher compared to continuous production, higher setup costs due to frequent changes in setup. Next, let us determine what is the second type of production system, which is continuous production. We have described continuous production uh, when I told you about the types and classification of production system. So let us just know what are the characteristic advantages and limitation of continuous production. So the characteristics are dedicated plan and equipment with zero flexibility. Material handling is fully automated. Process follows a predetermined sequence of operations. Component materials cannot be readily identified with the final product. Planning and scheduling is a routine action. Advantages are standardization of product and process sequence, higher rate of production with reduced cycle time, higher capacity utilization due to the balancing. Manpower is not required for material handling as it is completely automatic. Person with limited skills can be used on the production line. Unit cost is lower due to high volume of production. Limitations are flexible to accommodate and process number of products does not exist. Very high investment for setting flow lines and product differentiation is limited. And lastly, the classification of another continuous production is mass production, which manufacture of discrete parts or assembling using a continuous process. Characteristics are standardization of product and process sequence, dedicated special purpose machines having higher production capacities and output rates, large volume of products, shorter cycle time of production, lower in process inventory, perfectly balanced production lines. Flow of materials, components, and part is continuous and without any backtracking. Production, planning, and control is easy. Material handling can be completely automatic. Advantages of mass production are higher rate of production with reduced cycle time, higher capacity utilization due to line balancing, less skilled operators are required, low process inventory, manufacturing cost per unit is low. And the limitations or breakdowns of one machine will stop an entire production line. Line layout needs major change with the changes in the product design, high investment in production facilities. The cycle time is determined by the slowest operation. So now that we know about production system, its types and classification, let's move on to know the measures of productivity. But first, let us define productivity. So productivity is a system property that interacts with other system properties such as reliability and consistency, as well as customers' perception of quality. It measures the performance of the organization's processes for doing work and overall measures of the ability to produce a good or services. So the term productivity is used to describe the the ad, productive use of an organization's resources. So productivity is an index that measures output, which means goods and services, relative to the input which is labor, materials, energy, and other resources used to produce it. It is usually expressed as the ratio of output to input. So productivity is a critical business variable that directly impacts the bottom line. So meaning improved productivity raises net profits. So productivity is a system property that interacts with other system properties such as as what I have mentioned. And now let us know what are the measures of productivity or measurement of productivity. One is a single factor productivity in which it relates output to one particular type of input, and multi-factor productivity, a measure of economic performance that compares the amount of output to the amount of combined input used to produce that output. So for single factor productivity, uh, it is a synonym for partial productivity measure. It uses a single component to measure productivity. The single factor based measurements are limiting because in industries there are often several productive factors of near equal importance, and the relative importance of these inputs may shift over time. For example, if the labor force shrinks, the relative importance of skilled labor to other inputs may become critical. So, with multi-factor productivity, it sidesteps this problem because the combined productivity of all inputs are measured. Simply put, multi-factor productivity is the productivity of all inputs where the weights used to estimate the contribution of each input to output are their shares in the total cost of production. So let us know more about the measurements of productivity and its computation to know the level of productivity. So first is single factor productivity. So as you can see, productivity is equal to output of divided by input. So this is the measure of production efficiency. So we have two types of single factor productivity. We have the labor productivity, which means labor efficiency is an often used measure of productivity, where productivity is a ratio of output units produced to input labor resource expended per unit of time. So the following equation gives the dimension for output and input, which is output, as you can see in our slide, output is equals to unit per hour, and input is equal to dollars per hour equals hourly wages. Yeah. So then, as you can see, the labor productivity measures labor productivity over a specific period of time and gives a relationship between the dollars of low labor resources required in period to achieve the output rate. This is a measure of how much output is being obtained for each dollar spent. Yeah. Then another way of stating the measure of productivity is to put a dollar value on the output volume per unit of time as given in the following equation, which labor productivity is equal to output over output is equals to sales in dollar, output is equals to sales in dollar, and input is equals to dollars of labor. So the advantage of this method is that it can deal with the productivity of the system across different kinds of units. For example, the productivity of a paint company that puts paints of many color in cans of many sizes could be measured. This approach is used for national accounting of productivity where there are many different kinds of units to be included. Dollars can standardize the output measure across diverse categories. Labor productivity, often measured as a ratio of sales dollars to labor cost dollars, is called a partial measurement of productivity or a single factor productivity. It is partial because it only looks at labor and does not include capital. So another point of partial measure of productivity or single factor productivity is capital productivity. There are also factors that can be used to measure productivity. For example, capital may be used as an input resource in place of labor, or both capital and labor may be used as capital and labor. Uh, Capital productivity is the productivity of the invested capital in technology. So as you can see, in the first equation for capital productivity, it measures capital productivity as the number of units of output per dollar of invested capital. And whereas the second is that it measures capital productivity as a pure ratio based on dollars of output per dollar of invested capital. So, such measures of capital productivity might help organizations in the service sectors to address the value of returns on investments in computers and telecommunications. By extending this reasoning, it is possible to develop other partial measures of productivity with respect to areas such as energy, expended space, utilized, and material consumed. So here is a sample computation of single factor productivity. Problem is, John Lucy makes wooden boxes in which to ship motorcycle. Then John and his three employees invest a total of 40 hours per day, making 120 boxes. What is their productivity? So as we know, there is the given, our output is 120 boxes and input is 40 hours. So let's divide it and we can get the productivity, which is 3 boxes per hour. So this is how we compute using single factor productivity. Now let us know more about multi-factor productivity. So for multi-factor productivity, it can measured in different ways. So sales and finished goods are considered as outputs, but work in process is not. So also labor costs and capital expenditures are treated as inputs. So sa in with MFP or multi-factor productivity is measured as the ratio of dollars earned to dollars spent. So total factor productivity is another name associated with inclusion of more than factors than labor. Multi-factor productivity is measured on a regular basis to determine how well the U.S. industrial base is doing and whether it is improving its competitive position in the world. So now let us watch this video to know more about the inclusions of the total input resources expended. Now that we know the ingredients of the multi-factor productivity, so a change in multi-factor productivity reflects the difference between the changes in output and the change in labor and capital inputs engaged in the production of the output. Multi-factor productivity does not measure the specific contributions of labor, capital, or any other factor of production. Instead, it reflects the joint effects of many factors, including new technology, economies, of skill, managerial skill, and change in the organization of production. So let us try this sample computation for multi-factor productivity. Problem is that David Upton is the president of Upton Manufacturing, a producer of go-kart tires. Upton makes 1,000 tires per day with the following resources. So his labor is 400 hours per day at 12.5 dollars per hour. Energy is 5,000 per day. Raw materials is 20,000 pounds per day at $1 per pound. Capital cost is $10,000 per day. So we have Clem here. So as you can see, our output is 1,000 tires as stated in the problem. And our input or the total dollar cost, meaning 5,000. Where did we get that 5,000? It's 400 hours for the labor is 5,000. This we we get it by multiplying 400 hours per day at 400 hours per day at $12.5 per hour, which um equals to 5,000. Then we got the energy, which is 5,000 per day, which is given. So 20,000 pounds per day at $1 per pound. That's where we get the 20,000 from the raw materials, and 10,000 is given in the capital cost. So the total of the total dollar cost is $40,000. So we have already the output and the input, and we just need to divide it. So from our productivity is 0.3 tires per dollar. Have you get it? Do we need another computation? So now, let us move on knowing the variables of productivity. Here is the productivity variables. Labor, which consists of workforce, whether skills, semi-skill, or non-skills. Capital, which are ready durable goods purchased use the business capitals that can be used as production function, such as machinery and factory building and management, which collect, disseminate, and utilize their knowledge and skills to applicable level in organization to see the results in productivity. So with productivity variables, this ensures the productivity enhancements through the different factors such as labor, capital, and management, as what I've mentioned. So, as we know, for the labor skills are varied by the productivity still can be improved by improving on some key areas that affect the labor. So, according to Hanser, the labor productivity can be improved by improving on three areas, which are basic education appropriate of an effective labor force, diet of labor force, and social overhead that makes labor available. Social overhead is such as transportation and accommodation provided to foreign laborers. And labor's productivity improvement is the most talked about topic by management because it is something hard to manage as labor quality skills are different and parts of result in productivity can be qualitative rather than quantitative. For capital, um, it is an important asset to improve productivity. So capital goods already, as I mentioned, capital goods already durable goods purchased use the business capitals that can be used as production functions such as machinery and factory building. So businesses are investing a lot of money to equip themselves with latest capital technology or tools to improve their productivity. Example is investment in utilizing new machinery and information technology for production rather than using labor intensive methods. Interest and taxes affect the capital investment and making it expensive. So drop in capital investment can result in drop of productivity. And lastly, management. So management, so it is one factor of production and economics resources. So according to a survey, management is the most important key to improve significantly the productivity of the organization. Because, as I mentioned, this is because management can collect, disseminate, and utilize their knowledge and skills to applicable level in organization to see the results in productivity. Management can use labor's resources effectively and know how to use cost effective capital goods to further enhance the business productivity to create a strong and knowledgeable management. Investment in training and education is necessary in organization. So now that we have already learned or got to know about product system, productivity, measurement of productivity and the productivity variables, that uh, it ends my report. So thank you very much. Again, this is Kasha Rose Lavillinor reported a production system.